Hi, thank you for joining me as we begin to discuss the future of public education. As I began to form ideas about this seminar, my goal was to simply help parents make a good decision for next year. I know that parents are trying to determine whether to go back to public school next year. Many of our families are using homeschool this year to help their student get a good education with all of the up and uncertainties of public school and the hybrid learning and Zoom classes and all of that. And even with many charter schools and Christian private schools, the students are not getting the stability of, an education in a classroom every day. So I wanted to help families make a good decision for next year before you decide whether to go straight back to public school or even private Christian school, or perhaps you want to continue homeschooling. What I found was that I needed to update some of my statistics and research. The last time I researched on the wonderful benefits of homeschooling was back in 2014. So as I began to research and find new material and just get some updated statistics, it took me to a place that was quite unexpected. I discovered that public school and education is no longer about preparing our children for academic success and lifelong learning. It's actually quite the opposite. It's now about indoctrinating students using social issues that seem well-meaning, like poverty and racism and bullying. I mean, who would not agree that those issues need to be addressed? They do. And virtues like compassion and kindness and acceptance and equality and love, those are worthy virtues. They are biblical. They need to be addressed. But what's happened is these things have been hijacked by people with really radical agendas with the intention of indoctrinating our students to adopt and to conform to their ideologies. Now, it may sound like I'm overreacting, or maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist or one of those radical white right-wingers. But honestly, I'm telling you, all I've done is began to dig and find trying to find good reasons for public school, because I know many of you need that. But this is what I found. So with that being said, let's continue. So here's a quote from Cheryl Chumley. She's an online opinion editor from the Washington Times, and she says, "Education is moving from academic to political. Welcome to America's schools. Welcome to the madness of today's public schools. The system is not so much about teaching our children to read, write, and compute, as it is now a battleground for money, power control, leftist indoctrination, and yes, outright socialist infiltration." So she mentions socialism. Let's see what that is. So I found the Democratic Socialists of America website, and on their website, they describe themselves as well, let me tell you real quick, socialism and communism. Socialism, just to go back to your high school government class, socialism emphasizes intervention with private sector enterprise with public sector intervention. So public sector intervention is the government, and then of course private enterprise is the person. So this is where the government steps in and intervenes in private enterprise. In communism, there is no private enterprise, so that's a little bit the difference. So socialism emphasizes equality of opportunity, using the state to redistribute income from highest earners to others. So the DSA, or the Democratic Socialist of America, on their website they say, "We are an organization that describes us, we are a political and activist organization, not a party. Through campus and community-based chapters, DSA members use a variety of tactics, from legislative to direct action, to fight for reforms that empower working people." That's their quote. They are relentless in advocating for healthcare, Medicare for all people, labor unions, the New Green Deal. They're people/planet over profit. They're anti-capitalism. Think Bernie Sanders, he's actually on their website. They use language such as comrade and workers. It's very socialist, obviously. from a tweet that went out from the Middle Tennessee DSA, or the Democratic Socialist of America, right after the George Floyd incident and the riots this last summer, this tweet went out. Capitalism and the police as its agent is seeing tonight what it means to be held to account for the violence it inflicts upon the working class every day. Capitalism does not want to be held accountable and must be abolished. The Silicon Valley DSA raised over $45,000 to bail out BLM riders, and this was tweeted by the SV Simi Valley DSA Twitter account on May 31st. So let's see, who are some people that are in the DSA? So in 2017, there were 15 people elected to state and local offices. In 2018, over 40 state and local offices, including AOC and Rashida Tlaib, were elected. Then in 2020, 36 DSA members won offices with over 3.1 million votes. This is not a small membership. This is huge, and they are everywhere. So how does that affect us here? How is that matter to us here in Orange County? Well, Jackie Goldberg is on the Los Angeles School Board in the 5th District. He's a member of the DSA, or she. Representative Katie Porter lives in Irvine, who's also a DSA member. Also Representative Carrera in Anaheim, Representative Lauda in Laguna Beach, and Alan Lowenthal from Long Beach. All of these people are Democratic Socialists of America in government right in our neighborhood. The Hill published an article called "California Has Curriculum Modeled More on Marxism Than on Markets." Now, this is an article regarding university level curriculum. But in the article, they state that curriculum that they're looking at, now this was published in 2019. California, Cal State Fullerton has already adopted this curriculum, and it's being used now. So it says that the model curriculum says that capitalism is a form of power and oppression, and such systems dehumanize people. One thing that they don't mention in this curriculum, it says, yet as more nations have adopted free market ideas over the last 20 years, some 1 billion people of different ethnicities have been lifted out of poverty. And that's a finding that is noticeably absent from the California draft curriculum. There's no discussion of the disaster that is Venezuela due to tyrannical socialism. Venezuela is mentioned in the sample teaching materials, though, in lyrics to a rap song that include a helpful tip to get out Yankees from Latin America. And that's provided in multiple languages, just so you know. Now, the California lawmakers have forged ahead. It's now being used, like I said, at Cal State Fullerton, and they are requiring that every state university student take an ethnic studies class in order to graduate. One of my husband's clients has a sister-in-law who is at Cal State Fullerton going back to school to get her teaching degree, and she is required to take this class. And as a matter of fact, she's opted out of some of the assignments, and I'm going to get back to that in a little bit. So what does socialism have to do even more closely with us here homeschooling in Orange County? So on the DSA website, there is an article, "Why Socialists Should Become Teachers." First of all, they say in this article that the system is already highly unionized, and that means that the masses are easier to shepherd. They also say that education isn't going anywhere, meaning that it's not a business that's going to pick up and move to an area that's less friendly to unions. It also says that the system is ingrained in communities nationwide, and that means that students and families regularly interact with teachers, and compassion for cause is therefore more easily gained. And fourth, they say that teaching is a relatively stable job, which means that the socialists within the system will be better able to root their messages and spread their influence because the workforce won't be in constant turnover. The rank and file strategy, it goes on to say, is not only concerned with recruiting our coworkers to socialist organizations. The aim of the rank and file strategy is to build organizations of working class people that challenge the power of capital. Organizers on the shop floor, the schools, within a socialist political vision can help build struggles that draw in large numbers of workers and raise the class consciousness of many. It is out of these struggles that new socialists will arise. The Democratic Socialists of America, the DSA, stands with several, well, the largest education unions and teachers unions in America. The NEA is the National Education Association. The AFT is the American Federation of Teachers, and CTA is the California Teachers Association. All three of these collaborate, write curriculum, and work with the DSA. Not only is there a strong influence from education unions and teachers unions, Gelson is another strong supporter and influence and curriculum writer for the public schools and for districts. Gelson stands for Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network. And as you can see from their webpage here, that they are very overt about LGBTQ student experiences. And I'll just show you some more of their website here. This website here actually is the World of Celebrity Giving, Look to the Stars. This website just highlights and showcases celebrities and the charities to which they give. And as you can see here, our First Lady not only gives to this organization, but also spoke at their awards ceremony back in 2017. Here are some other sponsors of Gelson. You can see Hollister, Target, Walt Disney, Wells Fargo, and down at the bottom you see radio stations, Warner Media, Katzenberg, MGM, CBS. It goes on and on and on. So these are some of the companies that strongly support the Gelson, which is gay, lesbian website and social justice, as they say. One of the things that they've done is they've, in partnership with the National Association for the Education of Young Children, which is an organization I used to be a member of back in the 80s, and also with the National Education Association, they have worked together to come up with Ready, Set, Respect Elementary Toolkit, which is a curriculum for teaching the LGBTQ inclusive curriculum in elementary schools. So Gelson was established in 1990. According to their website, it envisions a world in which every child learns to respect and accept all people, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity expression. Gelson seeks to develop school climates where difference is valued for the positive contribution it makes to creating a more vibrant and diverse community. That's what they say on their website. In 2002, they did partner with the National Education Association. So now I want to show you some curriculum that I found that BLM partners with Gelson, with the NEA, and they've also developed some curriculum. So let me share my screen with a new share. Before we do that, let me go to, this is BLM's, just their website. You can go on there yourself, just Google it, and it'll come right up, and you just scroll through a little bit and give you a little peep at what their website looks like. Right down here, you see Shop BLM. They have their own little private enterprise right here, their capitalist thing going on there, although they are anti-capitalist. And they have 7 demands, and I thought this might be interesting to you to see. Here are their 7 demands, and I'll just slowly scroll through them, and you can take a look. And you can see that this is what they're about. None of this is a surprise, but it's right there. You can see it. Also, working with Black Lives Matter is the California Teachers Association. Right here, Racial Justice Now, Black Lives Matter, and here's their one of their pages on racism and I am not slamming racism. It is an issue. I grew up in the South. I saw it, I lived it, I never liked it. And I've taught my children not to be racist. And so anyway, you can see here, this is the National Education Association right there. And here's a video. The NEA's social justice page is Ed Justice. So if you go to Ed Justice, that's the NEA. And they have racial and social justice webinar series. So you can see all of their series. The CTA has a statement. They are a union of over 310,000 educators across California. So they are enraged and they're grieving, and they are about social justice. Also, going back to looking at the Ed Justice website, all of the resources that they have here, just scrolling through social and racial justice for Black lives, making sure that schools open safely, social racial justice in the community and COVID, Black community and COVID. So you can just see what the issues that they are addressing: white nationalism, equity in girls. So anyway, DACA. So those are the issues that are important to the most extensive and powerful education union in America. Now, moving on, this right here is a curriculum resource guide regarding Black Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter curriculum. So as I began to look through this folder right here, it has the year 2020-21 year of purpose materials. So here's a folder for Justice for George Day, Transgender Day of Remembrance, BLM Queer Affirming resources, and then right here, International Peoples with Disability Day. This was interesting to me. This is just some images that they can use for flyers, posters, whatever they want, you know, emails. And this one caught my attention. This one right here, now remember, this is disabilities, and I was trying to figure out, why is anti-capitalism, what does that have to do with being disabled? But it's just part of their doctrine. And so right underneath it here are their 10 principles of disability justice. So I want to share with you just some of the verbiage that's used in this 10 principles of disability justice. Number 1, ableism coupled with white supremacy, supported by capitalism, underscored by heteropatriarchy, which is a husband and a wife, a man and a woman in a home, has rendered the vast majority of the world invalid. Number 2, we are led by those who most know these systems. In other words, taking advantage of those who are not aware of how the system works. In an economy that sees land and humans as components of profit, so the economy sees land and humans as profit in their mind. You can just go through and see, some of them are, I don't even know kind of where they're headed with it. We pace ourselves individually and collectively to be sustained long-term. Our embodied experiences guide us toward ongoing justice and liberation. And then look at the last one. No body or mind can be left behind. Only moving together can we accomplish the revolution we require. So again, I'm not really surprised. I know that BLM is more militant, but you can just see what's on their page there. So that's the disabilities. So let me move in and let me just show you the other folders. There's right here, student challenge resources, New York City BLM at school, and they have folders for early childhood, elementary, high school, middle school, right here, post-secondary adult education, and they are folders filled with resources. So let me just show you, early childhood, they have book list, coloring pages, lessons, resources. In the elementary, it's the same. Prep and protocols, resources, links, lesson plans, activity books, and worksheets. Let me show you, high school has probably the most resources. And some of the lessons are interesting to me. High school environmental science and justice, Black Panther Party, social justice mathematics materials, Reconstruction, Harlem Renaissance, which sounds interesting, high school film, documentary, visual media guides, high school arts curriculum. So they have numerous resources, on and on it goes. So you can see that there are numerous resources being used in schools, and they are there now. This isn't something that's down the road. This is happening now. Now let me go back to here. And let's see here. Don't really want to go from the beginning. Sorry, little technical issue here. Maybe, let me try something different. New share. Should, oh, here. There we are. So, so moving on, let's see. The Black Lives Matter has 13 guiding principles, and I feel like I need to share that with you too in light of what we've seen. So restorative justice, empathy, loving engagement, diversity, globalism, all of those are things that are worthy. However, then we get to transgender affirming. Let me get my little laser pointer here. Transgender affirming, queer affirming, and on it goes. They're right here in the Black families and Black villages. They're actually trying to redefine the nuclear family, taking away that heteropatriarchal stigma. They're wanting that to change to be, it can be 2 men, 2 women, single mom, grandma, you know, all of that. So they're in the process of undermining the traditional home, or the definition of what's traditional. So the elementary coloring page, right here, this is transgender affirming. These are some of the coloring pages that are out of the curriculum that we were just looking in. Everybody has the right to choose their own gender by listening to their own heart and mind. Everyone gets to choose if they are a boy or a girl or both or neither or something else. And no one else gets to choose for them. This one was taken from the early childhood resources. The queer affirming one over here, everybody has the right to choose who they love and the kind of family they want by listening to their own heart and mind. So transgender affirming, they can choose what gender they are, and queer affirming, they can choose who they want to love. So this brings me to the Healthy Youth Act. The Healthy Youth Act was signed in California back in 2015-16, and has already been implemented in high school, started at the high school level and brought down. One article I came across was the Brea Olinda School District School Board meeting, and there were parents that were attending, and they were speaking against adopting the Healthy Youth Act for their school district. And that was in 2016, I think, 16 or 17. Then in 2018, I came across a document that was for the Brea Olinda teachers describing the implementation of the program and the training sessions and all of that. So I want you to understand that although we have a school board, and although we have the right to go before the school board and dialogue and let our requests and desires be known, we are not the ones that get to decide what's best for our children. Actually, the school board is driven and under pressure from the teachers' unions. And that's who's really making decisions in the public school system and even charter schools and beyond, because they are such a powerful union. They are able to put pressure on all kinds of organizations. So that brings us to the ACLU, and they are involved in this. I don't know why. But the ACLU has put out fast facts about the California Healthy Youth Act. And a couple of things that I appreciated is that parents must be notified that their student will receive this sexual health and HIV prevention education, and they will be allowed to waive that for their student if they want. But some other things that are a little not surprising, but again, in written language right here, it's happening. They have to, all instruction must be age appropriate and medically accurate and may not promote religious doctrine. Not surprising. Also, the needs of the students of all genders and sexual orientation, they must respect and address them. They must recognize different sexual orientations and be inclusive of same-sex relationships. Now, beginning in grade 7, do you have a 7th grader? Can you imagine your 7th grader being taught about safety and effectiveness of the methods of preventing pregnancy and the transmission of infectious, HIV and all of the sexually transmitted STDs and all of that? And they're including condoms, contraceptives, antiretroviral treatment, and last, and apparently the least important, abstinence. It also says here that schools must make sure that all students can get sexual health education and HIV prevention education in a way that works for them. I'm not even sure what that means, but it leaves it open to whatever that student, whatever way that this works for that student is the way that needs to be taught to them. I understand if they're deaf, they need to have it in sign language. If they're blind, they may need to have it in Braille. I get that, but this leaves it open to other as well. So I don't know. Over here, the curriculum that is connected with this Healthy Youth Act is Advocates for Youth is one of the websites. Here is a 1st grade lesson on gender roles. Here's a 4th grade lesson on making sense of puberty. They're talking about puberty, how it all has to do with the ways our bodies change and prepare us for becoming adults in 4th grade. To me, that's more of a 5th, 6th grade, maybe 7th grade, but it's actually a personal thing with families, but nevertheless, there it is. This is a lesson that's actually taken from the Healthy Youth Act. This is an 8th grade Introduction to Sexual Orientation lesson plan for the teacher. And the learning objective here is to identify the 6 different classifications of sexual orientation in the acronym LGBTIQ, and then develop the knowledge and skills leading to healthy attitudes concerning sexual orientation. That's the learning objectives. So, as we move on, we can see here that there's a lot of literature written for young children. When we saw in the BLM curriculum resource guides, there were actually book lists. And that link took me to this book list right here, SoCal, or Social Justice Books, a Teaching for Change project. And there are numerous book lists. Let me move my picture up here. And as you can see, the names of some of the books are King and King, Man Up, Oliver Button is a Sissy. And on the website it says, while all these books written for older elementary and middle school students would make great additions to classroom and school libraries, we must start introducing such stories long before students are reading chapter books on their own. Their goal is to grab our children young and while they're impressionable and teach them the indoctrinating ideologies that they're trying to spout. Now, all of this may sound like it's happening out there, but it's happening right here. I keep saying that, and it's really true. A charter school that many families are involved in have, summer reading programs, and there's one in particular. This book was found on one, and I had a parent come to me who is very familiar with communism and socialism, and when, from personal experience, and when her kindergarten daughter was on the reading book list for the charter school in which they were enrolled, and immediately she recognized the indoctrination in this book when the verbiage is, we don't like our working conditions, we don't like our living conditions. It's the bees go on strike because they're making honey for this bear, but they go on strike because they don't like their working conditions and they don't like their living conditions. And that's exact verbiage from the book. Another anecdote I have for you is in Fullerton School District, there's an elementary school, and a friend of mine babysits some children and picks them up after school. And one day the children got in the car, and the older elementary student said, I had a transgender substitute teacher today. So there you have it. This little first grader and fourth grader are familiar with the term. They began to dialogue with the babysitter over, well, I don't want to do that, but if I had a friend that did that, and began to, discuss transgender and the acceptance and affirming that choice in children. In Las Vegas, another anecdote for you. In Las Vegas, a young man was a senior in high school, and he was in a required ethnic diversity class before he could graduate. It's required for graduation. And one of the activities that they do, a lesson that they did, and I saw this lesson in one of the links as I was doing this research, I came across it. What they do is they have all the students line up in a row like this, side by side, and then they begin to ask them about, there were like, I think 30 or 40 questions. And the intent is to begin to divide the students by their, it's basically white supremacy in dividing them. So they ask questions that intentionally draw out the differences. And so the questions are, did you ride public transportation to get here today? If the answer is yes, step back. If the answer is no, step forward. Do you share a bedroom with your siblings? Do you have two parents in your home? Does your mother work more than one job? All of these types of questions. And by the end, there is a huge divide between the two groups of students. At that point, then they begin to discuss, how does that make you feel being this group? How do you feel being that group? And the young man did not like how he felt. And this young man, his mother is half Black and he is 1/4 Black. So, but he was in the group of haves and not the have-nots. So he was not feeling comfortable about this. He was also required to, part of their lesson is to discuss their sexuality, their gender, their preferences and all of that. And he didn't feel comfortable doing that. He did not want to participate. The principal of the school district told him that he must, or he would not graduate. If he didn't take the class, he would not be able to graduate. So his mom was filing a lawsuit. So going back to my husband's client, whose sister-in-law is at Cal State Fullerton, they did the exact same exercise in her class. They lined up side by side and they began to go through this. And there are other assignments that were in that class that she just refused to do. She told the teacher, I'm going to take a 0 because I'm not going to be participating. She's graduated from that class or past that class barely, but it's here. It's at Cal State Fullerton. It's here. Just want to keep reiterating that and letting you know. So education has become a political battle. In a statement by Alyssa Hadley Dunn, she's an assistant professor of teacher education at Michigan State University, and speaking on behalf of the NEA, the National Education Association, she says, everything in education, from the textbooks to the curriculum to the policies that govern teachers' work and students' learning, is political and ideologically informed. Both what is taught and how it is taught is shaped by the cultural, social, political, and historical contexts in which a school is situated. We can't pretend that teachers can leave contexts at the door. So education is political. Today, this morning, I found this article from HSLDA, and in Washington, D.C., they have passed a bill already that lets 11-year-olds make medical decisions without telling their parents, and it has to do with the COVID vaccine. Now, HSLDA doesn't, and neither do I, vaccinating your children is a decision that you make. I don't have a stand one way or the other. And this is not about that. This is about taking the parents' control away from their children and making decisions, the government making decisions for our children. So in the article, HSLDA says a minor 11 years of age or older may consent to receive a vaccine where the minor is capable of meeting the informed consent standard, and the vaccine is recommended by the United States Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. Now, what the article goes on to say, the bill, is that if a child, first of all, 11-year-olds are not typically have done the research to know the pros and cons for vaccines and how they affect things. They don't even know their family history, much less their own medical history. It's just doesn't make sense for an 11-year-old to be making a decision like this. But even worse is the medical provider who gives the vaccine is prohibited from documenting this in the child's medical record. The physician, the child's own physician, will have no idea that this vaccine has been given. And not only that, but they are to report it to the school, not to their physician. And the school may not reveal this to the parents. This is all written in this bill according to the HSLDA article. So a lot for you to consider going back to public school. Another thing out of the article says, though the bill states that the child must meet the informed consent standard, nowhere does the bill suggest who determines if a child does in fact meet that standard. It should be the parents, but for kids receiving a vaccination in a setting without parents, say public school, it won't be the parents. So consider that as well. Will schools reopen? That's the big question. That's what we all want to know. And I want you to know that teachers' unions are fighting for school reopening to be delayed until every staff, every student, every teacher, everyone have the vaccine. Now, Governor Newsom has a plan, but the teachers' unions are just not agreeing with him. And you can see here's an article that large urban districts object to his school reopening plan, and here's why. He has a plan to reopen based on the numbers of cases in the district. So there must be less than 28 cases per 100,000 per capita. He's allocated anywhere from $450 to $700 per student based on the English language learners in the district. Now, school districts in Orange, San Diego, Kern, Marin, and even suburban and rural areas have already begun sending some students back, and we're seeing that here in Orange County. So they're going to be able to stay open even with this second wave and third wave. They were able to continue to stay open. And since Biden's inauguration, that's been one of the big questions, and the White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki has been quizzed and asked regularly about what is the administration's position on this issue. And a reporter asked her recently about more details, What does it mean to reopen schools? What is it going to look like? Are the teachers going to be remote and the students in the class, or are the teachers going to be in class and the students remote? Well, all of those questions, partly at home, partly just the same questions we've always had. And she noted first that it meant in-person classes in the majority of schools, and she did not specify K through 8. And she said by day 100, a majority of schools will be in-person classes. And then I quote, she says, that means some teaching in classrooms, so at least one day a week. Hopefully it's more. And then she added, as much as it is safe to do in each school and local district. Now, there's also an assembly bill here in California, AB 10, and it was composed by the Democrats in the state legislature on reopening schools. And that sounds great and wonderful, but here's what it really looks like. It doesn't set a date for when most students will return or even how that's going to look. But what it does do is it is open with tiered re-engagement strategies. So it'll be open for English learners, it'll be open for low income, foster students, homeless students, and that, because that comprises 60% of the students in California. And students, though, they're the students that are performing below grade level. And I just want you to try to really put that together. If this is about COVID, then why is it that those with performing below grade level are not exposed to COVID as much as those who are performing to grade level? Every student needs to be in a classroom. Every student has the right, according to the California Constitution, the right to a free and public education. Now, they're not withholding this education from these other students, but they are restricting their education and they are interfering with their education. And so you need to consider that as well. So there's a lot to think about, and it sounds very ominous and dire. So I want to try to leave you with some positivity. If you're going back to public school, you need to understand that the teachers that are teaching there want to be in the classroom. They love what they do. A majority of them love what they do. They love their students. They getting an education and a credential in California is not easy. It is a tough road to go down. And to go through all of that and not even be able to teach, these teachers want to be in the classroom. Also, we live in a fairly conservative area, so all of these things that I've mentioned, some of them are right here, right now, but we're still a conservative area. So even though it's here, it may not be here in full force. So we still have a little bit of time. Christians in many key administrative positions are still in places in the school district. So we still have Christians in positions of authority within school districts all around in the Norwalk, La Mirada, in Yorba Linda, Placentia School District, and others. So there are Christians that are in good places, key places to help monitor these issues. And for now, you're able to waive health classes for your students, so that's a good thing. Hopefully it will continue and you'll be able to, they won't take that away. If you're going to be in a public school, volunteering in the classroom, once the classrooms are open and they will let you in when COVID is done, make sure that if possible, that's what you're doing. You want to be able to volunteer in the classroom and be a part, so get in there, see what's going on with your student, be a part of what's happening in there every day. You want to make sure that you develop a good relationship with teachers and school administrators. That is very key, and that's a little bit harder to do with COVID. You have to be creative and figure out how to make sure that your teacher knows you, respects you, relies on you, and wants you there. I'm speaking from experience. For 1 year and 2 weeks, my two youngest were in public school. And that first year was a good year. I volunteered in the classroom. Both of the teachers loved and respected me, and I loved and respected them. And my son's teacher was a gay man, and great relationship and no issues at all. Second year, however, 2 weeks in, and it just wasn't working. So we pulled out and we finished homeschooling. But it's vital, and it can be done, to be creative when you can't be in the classroom. How can you still be part of your students' teacher's life? Make sure that you read their assignments. If they have textbooks, which I'm understanding that they're mostly given assignments from various places on the internet, you need to be checking that out and making sure that those links don't link to something else. You need to be very diligent and in everything, every piece of this, every assignment, every thing they watch, everything they do, every library book they read. If you're doing a Zoom class with your teacher, you need to be in the room while that teacher's teaching. And they may tell you they don't want you in there, but it's important that you're within earshot and you know what's happening and what's being said to your student. If you hear something that is questionable, then you need to be an advocate for your student. You need a dialogue with your teachers and even administrators if you need to. So developing a good relationship coupled with advocating for your student sometimes is a tricky thing to navigate, but it's very important that both happen. Be involved and be proactive. I can't express that enough. That's going to be key to a successful year in public school for your child. Now, perhaps you're considering Christian school. There are godly teachers there. There are good role models. It can be a really great environment, especially in elementary school and even junior high. It's a good place to be. There's guided instruction 5 days a week. So when you're homeschooling, you don't get that. But with a Christian school, you get 5 days a week. And obviously you get Christian curriculum from a Christian worldview. Most Christian schools are accredited and most teachers are credentialed. You're going to find that your students' peers are going to have more like-mindedness and like-minded values, and the parents that you meet too and the play dates that happen, you're going to find that that's way better than you would possibly find in a public school. However, there are some downfalls. A private education is expensive, and oftentimes, especially in high school, public schools can simply mimic private Christian schools can simply mimic public schools, meaning they're still going to teach the socialist ideologies as far as acceptance. They may also include end of the year state testing, which can be good if you need your student to do that, but it might not be if you have a student that doesn't test well. Just be aware that just because the name of the school is a Christian school doesn't mean that your student won't be bullied. It doesn't mean there won't be drugs. It doesn't mean there won't be sex. It doesn't mean that there won't be talk about these things. And it will be there. In my experience, I've talked to many parents over the years, and the private Christian schools in the area are better, but they're not perfect. Again, there's end of the year state standards testing, so your child, be aware of that. Lessons are geared to students whose learning isn't the median, meaning the teachers teach to the middle of the learning spectrum. They may have 20, 30, 40 kids in the classroom, probably 30 or 40 in the classroom, and they can't teach to every student. This is an issue that happens even here at STAR with our classes. We have 12 in a classroom. Unless all 12 of those kids have the same learning style and on the same page, the teacher is still teaching to the middle of the class. The difference is they get to go home at the end of the day and the rest of the week and catch up, and they have one-on-one learning at home, and then by the time they come back again, we're all on the same page. That doesn't happen in any other type of classroom where they're there every day. So some students will be in a situation where they don't get it, and some will be in a situation where they're feeling dragged down and it's going too slow and they might be bored. So just keep that in mind as well. And you need to understand that for some families, Christian schools are a last resort. If they've had students who have been dismissed from public school because of behavior or drugs or something like that, the next step is to enroll them in a private tutor or a private Christian school. So private Christian schools seem to get a lot of problem kids. So keep that in mind too, even though Christian schools, again, I don't want to slam Christian schools, but that's the reality, is a lot of kids who cannot make it or get kicked out of public school end up in private schools, especially drugs. You're still going to have the hustle and bustle and the craziness after school routine when you're in school all day, Christian school or public school. So when the day's over, once soccer practice and football practice and baseball practice are back in full swing, you're going to be leaving school, going straight to practices, driving through somewhere quick, get a bite, then go, maybe the next thing is your voice lesson or drama practice or whatever, and you're going to be having to complete homework that night before the next day. So kids are going to it's a stressful, high-strung type of lifestyle. And I think that's one thing that's been good has come out of COVID, is it slowed everything down, and families are seeing the benefit and the value of a slower lifestyle. But keep that in mind as well. So what about charter schools? Charter schools are homeschool. They are free. There's no cost to them. They are accredited. The teachers are credentialed and they oversee your students, so you have a one-on-one with a teacher. They also offer end-of-year testing if you need that, but they also have testing for special needs, and they have IEP services and all of those kinds of things to help you. So that's always a positive. Transferring from homeschool into a public school or even a charter school in high school is sometimes difficult. Homeschool is not an accredited institution, especially if you file your own affidavit and you're at home. Even here at STAR, we're not accredited yet, but on a side note, we are filing for accreditation starting this summer. We will be working on that. But however, when you're in a charter school, they are accredited already. And so transferring from 9th or 10th grade charter school homeschooling into a public school is not going to be an issue because you've already got the credential courses behind you. If you have any questions about accreditation or A through G classes, be sure to give me a call or email me, and I'd love to chat with you more about that. Neither accreditation nor A through G courses are required for high school graduation or college admissions, but they won't have you believing that. So talk to me if you have questions about that. I'd love to tell you more about it. The drawback to charter schools is so many people are now wanting to homeschool that charter schools are now waitlisted. Also, the state has stopped funding to charter schools. They gave them X amount and no more. And so the wait list, one of our homeschool moms here, her kiddos are enrolled here at STAR. She's an educational specialist for a charter school, and she said that they have over 250 on the wait list. And so it's a really, it's a big mess right now as far as being waitlisted. And again, the vendor money is being narrowed as to what it can be used for, and also less money is being allotted to charter schools. As you are probably aware, our state is in a real financial conundrum right now, and so money is not going to be going to charter schools. As a matter of fact, teachers' unions are very anti-charter, and so again, the most powerful union in the state is anti-charter, anti-homeschool, so they're not going to lobby for funding to happen for charter schools. Christian curriculum is not supposed to be used. It's the policy that you should use state curriculum. However, many educational specialists and charter schools will allow families to use whatever curriculum they want at home. So in order to do that, you are circumventing the policies of that charter school, and that's a decision that each family has to make on their own. So not all families or teachers will have a Christian worldview. When you're involved in a charter school, and once again, things start to open and field trips and park days and family nights and all of those kinds of things begin to happen, the friendships that your children forms with these kiddos are not going to necessarily be Christian families and come from different backgrounds and worldviews. And any classes that these charter schools teach will be teaching curriculum that we have been looking at today. So the last option, there's public school, private Christian school, charter school, and then homeschool without a charter. So if you're considering that, there are lots of reasons. I came up with 20 just like that. And as I began to look at all of the reasons to homeschool, the benefits of homeschooling, it boiled down to really two categories of why. One is you can customize your education for your student. You can move fast, you can move slow, you can teach what they like, you can not teach if they don't relate to it. And also, you can do it from a Christian worldview without any flack from anyone. And there are a lot of resources out there. However, homeschooling is not a walk in the park. It can be overwhelming a lot of the time. Your child's education is now resting on your shoulders, and maybe for the first time. So it can be overwhelming. Are we using the right curriculum? Is my day organized correctly? Am I the right person to be the teacher? Why aren't they listening to me? Am I being too influential? Am I letting them be thinking critically? There's so many questions that go on. Trust me, I had 4, and every student was different, and every year was different, and every year I felt overwhelmed. There's a lot of sacrifice. You're sacrificing a career because someone has to stay home and teach kiddos. You're sacrificing finances because you're not a double income family. You're sacrificing clean clothes all the time and a clean house and getting to the grocery store in a timely manner and hobbies and things that we can do when our kids are in school all day. Now we can't do those things. But I want to encourage you and let you know that before you know it, that time will be ended. I am now an empty nester, and it seems like it just went like that. However, there were days when I thought it would never end. Trust me. Also, especially now with COVID, it can feel very isolating. You can feel like there's no one else out there that can relate to you. But I want to encourage you. Here at Star Homeschool Academy, we have moms that are willing to mentor. We've had one mom's night out. We're planning another one. We want you to not let yourself feel isolated. We are here to encourage, to be with you, to plan things. Once things start opening and field trips happening again, then for sure you'll get to meet other parents. But it can feel very isolating until all of that happens. And then there's always that second guessing. Am I teaching the right thing? Am I ruining my child? Is something bad going to happen because of the lack of something that I did or didn't do? Are they going to be lacking in their education? So there's a lot of that goes on. And all of that is very, very stressful. Trust me, it is. But again, I want to reiterate, you have as much support as you need. Not only can you find resources online, you've got resources here through Star Homeschool Academy. And if you're involved in another charter or another homeschool group, you've got resources there. And you need to not be afraid to tap into those resources and get the support that you need. Happily, it can change your child's life. We have students who come into homeschooling that have been bullied, that have been told you're never going to learn, you have a learning disability and you'll never go to college. Students who have been, feeling ostracized by all kinds of reasons from their peers, but they come into homeschooling and they get that one-on-one learning. They get over that learning bump and then boom, their education, they begin to thrive under one-on-one teaching and homeschooling. It can be life-changing for your child. Also, it can really create a new world of learning and growing. Your student can focus on things that interest them, that spark their curiosity, and that give them that desire to want to dig deeper and learn more. And that's going to cause them to grow. And not only that, but to own their education and to enjoy learning and to see it as an adventure and not as a chore. It also brings families closer together in lots of ways. Older siblings can tutor younger siblings. Younger siblings can hang out and do fun things with each other. Moms and kids get closer. There are just lots and lots of ways that families spend more time together when they're together all day. Now, it also means they have to navigate how to get along together. But once they do, it is just joy. They really do enjoy being together more than you would think. It's also a big benefit. And it gives you more time to explore the things that are interesting to your child. In the past, I've had students ask, do I have to do British Lit or American Lit or World Lit? Can I do, this kind of literature, or can I do Native American history? Absolutely. If it's interesting to them, then they're going to want to dig deeper, as I mentioned earlier, and really dig into that subject. And so it really does lend itself to creating an environment of your child wanting to learn and enjoying learning. And it goes without saying, you can take school with you on the road and you can travel more. It's amazing all the places that homeschoolers have been in a school year. So as we wrap up, I just want to share with you, lastly, that remember to pray diligently. And it may sound very cliche to say that God's in control, but really He is. Nothing is unknown to Him. He loves your child, if you can believe it, even more than you do. He has a plan, and it is a perfect plan, specifically for your precious child. So pray, listen very carefully for that still small voice, listen to the Holy Spirit before you make your decision for next year. I pray that the Lord will bless you and guide you, because this is one of the most important and long-lasting decisions that you will ever make. And with that, I'd like to say thank you for joining me, sticking with me. If you have any questions or you need anything, please visit our website and contact me, or if you have our phone number, you can give me a call. Take care and God bless.